of what is happening in the moment. And I first heard about Cliff in June of 2001 when I got an email from a wacky friend of mine. I guess all my friends are wacky. A friend of mine who said, look at this. So I read it, and I read about the program, and so it seemed kind of interesting. And then he said, here's what I'm reading. I'm reading that in the late summer, here's the emotional words I'm reading. High-rise buildings, airplanes, bombs, terrorists, many die. So I thought, wow, I wonder what that means. So, I put it aside, and then 911 happened. So now I was paying attention to this guy. So in 2005, he came out with the next alert, and he said, flood, southern city, many die, big storm, high winds. So I said, okay. And then Katrina happened. So now I've got his stuff on my wall, and I'm watching him now. So he's been right about 20 straight times in little ways. But about a year ago, he came up and he said, I'm getting the biggest reading ever. And it's saying October 6, 2009, or 2008. So, I put it on my wall, and all my friends are watching Cliff and seeing what's going to happen in the world. And that was the height of the crash. That October 6th was the height when we were at the worst. So now, everybody in the know, and you guys are now in the know, is paying attention to Cliff. We want to know what he's finding, right, in the next few years. And Cliff is a completely, totally cool guy. He did like Zazen on top of a 8,000-foot mountain for a week straight, and he was, he's a martial artist, and he's brilliant. And so he got on this radio show, a friend of mine's radio show, and I kind of fed the questions to this guy. I said, ask him this, and ask him that. So he asked him. He said, okay, so what's going to happen now? And he says, well, the next big date is January 26th, 2009, 6 days after the president is now put into office. And he said, it's going to be a repercussion from what happened on October 6th. And then the guy says, okay, so what happens then? And he says, in summer of 2009, the United States, it looks like it's going to default on its debt and declare bankruptcy. In 2010, the economy is going to get so bad, and then he stopped and he said, I don't really know how to say this because this is happening all over the world at the same time. It looks like there's going to be a worldwide revolution of where at least 60 different countries, including us. And so now, we're all sweating bullets listening to this guy. And I'm emailing the host, ask him this, ask him this. And so he says, okay, how far ahead can you project? And he says, well, I can project up to about 2012. And he says, oh, come on, everybody's talking about 2012. Tell us about it. So he says, well, this is where things get really weird. He said, there's going to be this economic collapse, and then there's going to be what he can only refer to as a revolution. He doesn't really want to use that word because he says what I'm getting is not really a revolution. It's something else, like an evolution almost. And then he said, but what's really crazy is, and I know no one's going to believe this because it's only 4 years from now, but in 4 years, reading the emotional content of what people are saying, everyone is going to be returned to the country into tribal communities by 2012, and growing your own food is going to be 80% of the work that you do every day. And this is 4 years. So I'm going, wow, this is really incredible. And it goes right in with everything that the Mayans are saying and everyone else is saying. And it's incredible. So, but there's something else going on, which is really even more amazing. And it was like Eric Gonzalez, the Mayan elder, he was talking about this is the end of the fourth sun and the beginning of the fifth sun. And the cross of Henday accentuates the sun. It has an angry sun on the facade. And so there's this strange sun motif that's going on in all these prophecies. And about 4.5 months ago, for the first time in recorded astronomical history, the sun lost its magnetic field. Its heliosphere, it's called. Do you know what the heliosphere is? This is really cool. All right, so here's the sun. And the sun has an electromagnetic field around it. That's its heliosphere, okay? And we're here. We're here in the heliosphere. Here's the Earth, right? Here's Venus. Here's Mercury, right? We're actually in it. And this heliosphere is an electromagnetic field, and everything, all of the gamma rays and synchrotron radiation that's coming from the center of the galaxy, by the way, is bouncing off this heliosphere and really not affecting us, okay? Because we have it. It's a protective layer that the sun has that keeps us safe from radiation. That heliosphere disappeared about 4.5 months ago. There's only been one sunspot, and it was gone. Uh-oh. Hope I didn't screw this up. Oh, great. Now they're going to charge us for this one. Okay. Thank you very much, whoever gave me that. And anyway. Oh, I can get it off. Okay. So the heliosphere has disappeared, and what's going on is the Ulysses spacecraft, NASA sent a craft up called Ulysses a few years ago, and it registered the amount of particles coming into the solar system, and the particles were overwhelmingly coming into the solar system from the center of the galaxy. And so right now we're being just inundated with all sorts of things that have never, in recorded history since Galileo, have come in to the Earth. I don't know what this means. I'm just telling you that it's a weird coincidence that all these things are happening at once. For the first time in recorded history, we don't have this protective layer around us. The sun and the analogy that I use is that the center of the galaxy is like the great goddess, and the sun is our protective father, and our protective father has kind of disappeared, and the information from the center of the galaxy is now getting through, which is eerily close to the Mayans' prophecies and their whole thing about the center of the galaxy lining up with the sun. And we don't know if any of this is actually a coincidence or what. We just know that it's happening. And so what is it, that's going on here? And it is an ecstatic event. And in alchemy, it's as above, so below. What happens in the heavens is reflected here on earth. What happens here on earth is reflected up in the heavens. So the heavens we've lost our protective layer. All sorts of knowledge, information, radiation, things we've never measured. We can't even measure it because it's never happened before. It's coming in. We don't even know what kind of machines to build to measure it because it's never occurred. So we don't know what to do. The scientists are worried about it. If you read the journals, they're very worried about what's going on right now and think that all sorts of radiation is getting in right now, which it probably is. And if you are familiar with the work of John Jenkins, and you know that genetic mutation is frequently caused by these strange power downs that the sun goes through. Okay? So the sun is powering down, and we don't know why, and we don't even know how long it'll last. The heliosphere has disappeared, and down here on Earth the markets are crashing. We're on the edge of a famine. They're not here, but in India and China, and we have the greatest crisis in human history unfolding in front of us, and our politicians aren't doing anything about it. They're not even mentioning it. I'm sorry, Democrat, Republican, they're not even talking about it. I wrote a series of letters to Nancy Pelosi a year ago. I was on the History Channel, and I did this show about the end of time, and I kept writing her and saying, how come, I thought the Democrats cared about us, and why aren't you telling people to prepare for what's happening? And her assistant wrote me back this little snarky letter, you're just trying to cause a panic. And I was like, I'm not trying to cause a panic. I'm trying to tell people what's going on, and you guys have a responsibility to do it, and they're not. And so I'm telling you right now, we're moving into some seriously dangerous period. We're moving into a seriously dangerous period of time, but it's not a bad thing. This is where I differ from the gloom and doom people. I think it's a great thing. I think if we don't stop what we're doing and change our ways now, forced on us or voluntary, we're going to be extinct in 100 years. I don't think we can make it. And I think that this is almost a godsend.